Welcome, joyful creators and Call the Midwife friends. Welcome to Funday Monday, part 17. This is the last part to this blanket, and today we are going to completely add the border to our blanket. Our border is going to be done in a 3-part series, but even though it's done in 3 parts, we are completely doing it all today. The reason I'm telling you it's done in 3 parts is because we have our 3 main colors. So you need to decide which color you want to go first. Now, I have put a picture of this up at the very beginning of the video tonight, so that you could see it in its entirety before we get started. And that will help you be able to determine which color you want for your border. I'm going to choose for the first part, the double crochets, my cream color. I will then choose the pink part to be the V-stitches. And I'm going to choose this green teal part to be my scallops. So I'm going to keep my color sequence in order. It started with the cream, it went to the pink, and it went to the teal. So that's how my border is going to progress as well, just to keep it uniform. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to pause this video for just a quick minute so I can get the blanket laid out. It is really, really huge. So I have to get it set up in a way that you'll be able to see the stitches. Now this border is very simple. Like I said, the first part is done in double crochet. It will be 2 rows around. Then we will do 3 rows around of V-stitches, and then we will end the final round with a round of scallops. So if you're ready, I'm going to pause the video real quick, and I am ready to meet you over at the craft table. Don't forget to lotion up. I've got to grab my lotion. I did not bring it to the table, and I've realized I probably have not lotioned you up in some of the previous videos, but by now you should know that lotioning your hands is extremely important and should not be a step missed before you start crocheting anytime. All right. I will see you over at the craft table. Before we get started adding our border, it is very important that you make sure that the top side, the right side of your blanket, is facing you. You should be able to see your stitch markers. You don't want them laying face down on the table. So when you have made sure that your blanket is right side up, then we're going to get started. Now you can start in any corner that you want to, but I am choosing to start at the very top corner of my blanket. This is also the first classic strip that we made, so this was literally the beginning of the blanket. I'm going to start in this corner and work my way around the blanket. Now we're going to go ahead and attach our yarn, and I'm going to show everyone how I do mine, but you do it how you feel comfortable. On your little border here, you've got a V-stitch here and a V-stitch here, and in between those 2 V-stitches you have a space. That's where you want to stick your hook, in that very tip corner, and then join your yarn. For me, I create a slip knot, and I just slide that on my hook just like I would if I was making a foundation chain, and I'm going to pull that through that space. I am then going to chain 1 and pull everything tight, and that just secures my yarn right into that corner. Okay. I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. That chain 3 counts as a double crochet, and then I'm going to go right back into that same stitch, and I'm going to make another double crochet, and then I'm going to do it one more time so that I have 3 double crochets in that corner stitch. And this is what it looks like. Okay. And then I'm going to kind of turn my blanket sideways. And I am going to work a double crochet in each stitch around my blanket. When I get to the corner and I'm in that very middle corner space, I'm going to work 3 double crochets in that corner space. I'm going to see if I can hold this hook a little bit differently so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. This is not my normal way to crochet, but I have been practicing for tutorials so that you can see better, because I know when I hold it like a knife, sometimes my hands get in the way, but there's nothing I can do about it. So that was 2 double crochets, 1 in each stitch. We're just putting a double crochet in each stitch along the edge until we get to the corner, and then we put 3. I was working my end tail in as I went, so for now I'm just going to push it to the front and I'll trim off that excess later. And I'm just going to keep working double crochets all the way around. Just working 1 in each stitch. And I'm just going to work a couple more here. And then we'll take a look at it. All right, there we go. And that's my little tail I got to cut off. But this is our blanket. And again, you're going to keep going all the way down your blanket, working a double crochet in each stitch. And when you get to this very corner spot again, you're going to work 3 double crochets into that spot. And then you'll continue working a double crochet into each stitch around. When you get back to the beginning and you have your last double crochet made, you're going to slip stitch into the top of this chain 3 to join your round. You are then, well, I'll tell you what, I'll come back and meet up with you there. So go ahead and finish round 1 of the border, and I will come back and begin round 2 with you. We have completed our first round of double crochets, and we now need to complete 1 more round of double crochets. And before we do that, we need to join this first round. So we're going to do that with a slip stitch. So you should have 1 loop on your hook left from that last double crochet you made. You're going to then take your hook and you're going to insert it into the top of the chain 3 that you made at the beginning of the round. So go ahead and insert your hook into that chain. You're going to yarn over and pull up a loop so that you have 2 loops on the hook. You're going to take that loop that you just created and keep pulling it all the way through the loop that was existing on your hook. And that is a slip stitch. And you can see how perfectly your round has joined. So now we need to start our second round. We want our chain 3 to start in the very tip corner here, but we're over here, and so if we chain 3 right here, that's going to put that chain 3 above this double crochet and not above the center one. So to get our chain 3 above that center one, we need to go into that center stitch, which is the very next stitch, and do a slip stitch as well, so that now you can see it has us directly in the tip corner there. And then we're going to go ahead and chain 3, and just like we did on the last round, we need to have 3 double crochets into that corner stitch. So we're going to add 2 more double crochets in that same stitch, and with that chain 3, that will give us our 3 double crochets in that corner. And then we're going to continue this second round just like we did the first one, working a double crochet in each stitch around. And when you get to the corner, in that very tip corner stitch, you will work 3 double crochets. So go ahead and pause the video, work up the second round of double crochets. When you get back to the beginning, you're going to do just like we did just right here with this one to join it. You're going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3. Once you've slip stitched and joined your round, go ahead and fasten off your work, weave in your ends, and then get the second color ready that you're going to use to create the V stitches, which creates that kind of lacy lattice look to our border. And I will meet back up with you there. We have completed our 2 rows of double crochet. We've come to our corner, we've slip stitched to join, and now we're ready to start the next 3 rows of our border, what we're kind of considering section 2, so to speak. I'm going to change and add this color. It's the next in my pattern. Now you could have stayed with the same color, and if that was the case, you didn't have to fasten off, but we are going to change colors for the tutorial. So I want you to go, and I'm starting in the top left corner of my blanket. It is facing me, so my stitch markers, I can see them, they're looking at me. I want you to go and find those 3 double crochets that you put in that one corner stitch. Okay. All right, so I have my 3 here. Here's my first one, my second one, and my third one. I want to insert my hook in the center of the second one because that will give me my tip corner, or the top of my, oops, I got it in the wrong one. 1, 2, 3. So it's going to go in this one. Now that looks right. And that's going to be the corner tip of my blanket. That's where I'm going to join my yarn. So go ahead and join your yarn however you feel comfortable doing that. Once your yarn is joined, go ahead and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go right back into that same stitch and do a double crochet. And this has completed your first V-stitch, a double crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet. We're going to put another V-stitch into that same corner. So we're going to go right in. We're not going to chain 1 first. We're going to just go right back in and do a double crochet. Then we were going to chain 1, and then we're going to go right back in and do a double crochet. So when you look at a V-stitch, just to make it understanding so that it's not confusing, I want you to look at the first double crochet as like an outside wall, the chain 1 is what's inside, and then the other double crochet completes the other side of the wall. Okay, so that's why you're not going to do a chain 1 there, because that wouldn't be creating a true V-stitch. A V-stitch has your 2 double crochets like this, and your chain 1 closes it in. Okay, to make another one, you have to start with your double crochet, then your chain 1 across the top, and then your second double crochet. So we're going to have V-stitches like this, not with a chain one in between. So I hope that makes more sense. That is our corner. That is what you're going to do in every corner. You're going to make 2 V-stitches. So you'll have 4 double crochets and 2 chain one spaces. Each chain one will be divided by 2 double crochets only. Okay? So then to get going down the side, you're going to skip the next 2 stitches. So we're going to skip 1, 2, and this is where we're going to come in next. So let me get my yarn back on my hook. You're going to yarn over to do your double crochet. So we're skipping 1, skipping 2, and we're going to go right into this next one and work a V-stitch, which again is a double crochet, chain 1, and go right back in the stitch and work a double crochet. Okay? And that's what we have so far. We're going to skip 2 again. So skip 1, skip 2, and in this next one work a V-stitch. A double crochet, chain 1, and go right back in that stitch and work a double crochet. And now this is what we have. Let's do it again. We're going to skip the next 2, so 1, 2, and in this next one we're going to work a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, and then a double crochet. Okay, and that's what it's creating so far. All right, let's work a few more together, remembering to skip 2 in between each V-stitch. Each V-stitch is made up of a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. You're not chaining anything when you skip the 2 chains. You're just working the V-stitches. Skip 2, and then do your V-stitch into that 3rd stitch if you want to. So it's, in a way, this is kind of done in a multiple of 3s because you're skipping 2 and you're working a V-stitch into the 3rd. And once again, that V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the same stitch. And then you're just continuing to do that all the way down the side. And then you want to make sure you're doing 2 V-stitches in each of your very tip corner stitches. So now let's talk, okay? What happens if you work your last V-stitch, okay, and you're coming up on the corner? Let's say if you skip 2, then it would put you working those 2 V-stitches past that tip corner. Then only skip 1 stitch. Do whatever you have to do with the spacing to get those V-stitches in that tip corner. You want to make sure you have the 2 V-stitches in your very corner stitch. So most of the time you'll always be 1 stitch short if you have to make an adjustment, so that in that coming into the corner you skip 1 stitch instead of 2. If you're skipping 3 stitches, then that means you could have done a V-stitch and still skipped the 2 and have it land in the corner. So the only time you would skip less than 2 is if you have 1 stitch off, which can happen depending on your pattern and the number of rows it had working this V-stitch along the side. Pattern being meaning the body of the blanket. So our panels could have been an odd number instead of an even number, and if that's the case, then it would have us 1 stitch short. And if that's the case, then just skip one stitch in between your V-stitches, your V-stitch and your corner stitch, and you'll be fine. That's the beauty of crocheting. Crocheting is usually very forgiving. It's a very forgiving art. And again, we skip 2 stitches, work in that 3rd stitch, a V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. All right, continue working down this side. I'm actually going to come back and join you when I get to the first corner, just so we can work that first corner together. And that way we can see if we're one short or if we have exactly what we need. And I can give you the visual of what I just have been trying to describe to you. So go ahead and pause the video and work down towards your corner. And when you get down to your corner, just come back and we'll work that first corner together. And to take a look real quick, this is what it is looking like. That is just beautiful. All right, so I'll meet you down at the first corner. Okay, so I am down to the corner and I have worked my last V-stitch coming up into this corner. So this is, I was going to look for another hook, but I cleaned it up and I've put them all away. So, all right, so I'm just going to use this one here. All right, so here are my 3 double crochets that create my corner. So this is my actual very tip corner. That's where I'm going to want to work my 2 V-stitches. So let's count from here to here. We have 3. 1, 2, 3 spaces. So this is what I was trying to explain. You don't want to have 3 spaces going into that next one, okay? Because it creates so much of a bigger gap. And you really want to keep it kind of uniform. So this is what we're going to do. Instead of skipping 2 spaces, we're going to skip 1 and work our V-stitch in the 2nd stitch instead of the 3rd, so that there's only 1 space. Now see, it looks pretty even. Even though this is 2 spaces skipped and this is 1, they still look natural. Where if I had done 3, it would have created a much bigger gap. So now I have 1 space in between that last V-stitch and where I need to put my 2 V's. So I'm just going to skip that 1 stitch. So I'm going to skip that 1 and then I'm going to come right into this corner and work my 2 V-stitches. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then to do the second one, I'm not going to chain 1. I'm just going to go right back in with the double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And that gives me my 2 V-stitches in that corner stitch. Now this is me. I like to stay uniformed. So right here and right here, I only skipped 1 stitch. So I am going to do the same coming out of the corner because I just want to make sure that it stays uniform. So I'm only going to skip 1 stitch, and in this very next one, I'm going to work a V-stitch. And since I did that twice, I'm going to do it one more time where I just skip 1 space and then do a V-stitch in the next one. And that has my corner completely uniformed. And that's how it looks. It looks completely the same. And now I'll go back to the pattern. I will skip 2, 1, 2, and work my next V-stitch. And then I'm going to skip 2 and work my next V-stitch. And so I'm going to just keep doing this all the way down to the next corner. Skip 2, and in that third one, work a V-stitch. So I want you to go ahead and finish this side of the blanket. I'm going to pause the video, and when we get to our very next corner, I'm going to come back and work one more corner with you, and then I will leave you to complete the remaining 2 sides by yourself. So go ahead and finish this side until you get down to the next corner, and we'll meet back and we'll work that together. We have made it to the other corner, and so here's my last V-stitch, and let's see how many stitches we have until we go into that middle stitch. So here are my 3 double crochets in that corner. I've got 1, 2, and 3. So that makes this my center stitch. And so I have 2 stitches between the last one I did and that corner. So I'm just going to keep going with the pattern the way it is. So I'm going to skip those 2 stitches and go right into that corner stitch and work my 2 V-stitches. So it worked out perfect. And there are my 2 V-stitches. So since I skipped 2 here, coming out of this corner to keep it uniformed, I'm going to skip 2 and go right into that next stitch and work my V-stitch. And then I'm going to skip the next 2 and go into the next stitch and work a V-stitch. And here is my corner. And let's see if I can find my other corner. So here is one corner, and here was the other corner. And you can see they look the same, even though we had to do some alterations on this one. So I want you to go ahead and work all the way around this next side and then the last side, working your V-stitches, skipping 2, working a V-stitch, working 2 V-stitches in the corner, and when you get back to the beginning, I will meet back up with you. We'll join our blanket round together, our border round together, and we'll go into the next round as well. So I will meet up with you when you get back to the beginning. We've made it back to the beginning. We have our final V-stitch right here, and we need to skip 2 to go into the next stitch, and that would complete the round. And to complete the round, we are going to go right into the top of this chain 3 and work a slip stitch, and that has our round complete. All right, so now we're going to slip stitch into this space, the chain 1 space of that first V-stitch in that corner. So let's slip stitch. Okay, and then we're going to slip stitch into this next double crochet. And then we're going to slip stitch into this little space that was created between the 2 V-stitch. Now remember, this is not a chain 1 space, but there's just a natural space there that was created when we did the 2 V-stitches. So now that we've slip stitched into that space between the 2 V-stitches, we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to work 2 V-stitches right into that space. That chain 4 counted as a double crochet and a chain 1. So then when you make your next double crochet in there, that completes that first V-stitch. Now we want to work another V-stitch into that same space. And it looks like that. So after you've created that corner, we are then going to put a V-stitch in every V-stitch around. So the next V-stitch is this one here that was created when we did the V-stitches on the first round. Because remember, we just did a V-stitch in between the 2 V-stitches in that corner. So that was the first one. This is the second one. So we're going to go right into this one here and work a V-stitch. Just like that. And now we're going to go right into the next V-stitch and work a V-stitch right on top of it, right in the center of that chain 1 space, just like that. And we'll go into the next V-stitch right in that chain 1 space, and we're going to work another V-stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. All right, going right into the next V-stitch, we're going to create another V-stitch. Again, we're doing this in the chain 1 space of each V-stitch, and we create another V-stitch. A double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And you can already begin to see how it's creating like this lattice work. A lot of people only do 1 round of V-stitches, but we're going to do 3 because I just love the beauty that that lattice look creates for it. So let's keep working in these V-stitches, putting a V-stitch in each one. I'll do a couple more with you, and then I'm going to leave you to do the next 2 rounds. When you get to the end of the second round, you'll do just like I showed you at the end of the first round. You'll just slip stitch over until you get to that very corner where you can do 2 V-stitches in that corner space. And again, we're just doing a V-stitch in each V-stitch around. When you get to the very corner, you're going to work in the space between the 2 V-stitches, and you're going to create 2 V-stitches. And again, just look how beautiful that is. So you're just going to keep working all the way around your blanket. And when you get to the next corner, you're going to work your V-stitch in this V-stitch. And then here are our 2 V-stitches that were in the corner. So here's the center of our first one, here's the center of our second one. Okay? But you're going to work in this little space that's created between the 2 V-stitches, and that's where you're going to put your 2 V-stitches, right in that very center, which puts it right dab in the middle of the corner. And then, so you'll have a V-stitch here, 2 V-stitches here, and a V-stitch here. Okay, so you'll have a total of 4 V-stitches in this corner piece alone. So 1 right in the center of the first V-stitch, 2 V-stitches in the space between the first and second, and then 1 V-stitch in that second. And then you'll come out of this corner and you'll do a V-stitch in this one, a V-stitch in this one, a V-stitch in this one, and so forth all the way around. And you're going to do that for a total of 2 rounds. So go ahead and finish this round and do one more round so you have a total of 3 rounds of V-stitches. When you're done, slip stitch to join, fasten off, and get your final color ready, and we'll put on the last round of our blanket at that point in time, and then our blanket will be finished. So I'll meet back up with you after your 3rd round of V-stitches. We have completed that 3rd round of V-stitches, and oh my gosh, isn't that just beautiful? I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, so we are now going to add our last round of our Born in Love blanket for our border. I'm going to switch to the 3rd and final color in my pattern, which is this minty green. So in our corner stitch, if you'll remember, we did the 2 V-stitches. So I need you to find those 2 V-stitches. I have one here and I have one here. So I'm going to go into that space that's between the 2 V-stitches. And this is where I am going to attach my new color. So go ahead and fasten on your new color with whichever method that you feel most comfortable with. I'm just creating a slip stitch for mine. Okay. Once you have your color fastened on, you need to chain 3. This chain 3 is going to count as a double crochet. And then we're going to go right back into that same space and we're going to add 6 double crochets. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And this is going to create a scallop, just like that. All right, so going into the next V-stitch, we're going to work in V-stitches all the way around, just like we did with the V-stitches. So in the next V-stitch, which is this one right here beside where we worked in, you're going to work a single crochet. All right, and then going over to the next V-stitch, which is right here, you're going to work 7 double crochets in it. 1, 2, 3, 4. I apologize for my dog in the background. 5, 6, and 7. Okay, in the next V-stitch, we're going to work a single crochet. And then in the next V-stitch, we're going to work 7 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, in the next V-stitch, we're going to work a single crochet. And this is what it's looking like. Very, very pretty. All right, let's keep working a few more together. So the last one we did was a single crochet. So in the next V-stitch, we're going to work 7 doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. In the next one, a single crochet. In the next one, 7 double crochets again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That is so pretty. In the next one, a single crochet. Whoops, yarned over first. Don't need to do that with a single crochet. And then in the next one, 7 more double crochets. And this makes 7. And then we're going to single crochet into the next V stitch, and then 7 double crochets into the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then single crochet in the next. So just keep repeating that pattern all the way down, doing your 7 double crochets in one V-stitch, and then in the next V-stitch a single crochet, in the next one 7 double crochets, and in the next one a single crochet. Keep doing that all the way down to the corner. When you get to the corner, I'm going to join you for the first corner and show you how to go around that corner. So I will meet up with you when you get to the corner. Isn't this just beautiful? I just love this. And that scallop just makes it. Okay. So we've made it down to the corner. I've worked a scallop in this V-stitch here. And now we've come to the V-stitches that create that corner. So hopefully you can see there's the first V-stitch and here's the second. And of course, we're going to come in between those V-stitches to work a scallop. But first, what do we do after a scallop? We do a single crochet. So in this next scallop, this next V-stitch, we're going to work our single crochet. And that puts us to this space right here between the two V's, and we're going to work a scallop there, which is 7 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so we have a scallop in that center part of our corner stitch, and that's what we always want. We want to make sure that we've always put a scallop in that very center. So after the scallop is a single crochet, so right here in this next V-stitch, we're going to do a single crochet. And then in the next one, we're going to do a scallop of 7 double crochets. 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and 7. Okay. And so in the next V-stitch is a single crochet, and in the next is 7 double crochet to create a scallop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then in this next V, we're going to do a single crochet to round off that scallop. And let's take a look at what we have. Oh my goodness. Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to shake the camera. Look at the corner. Oh, that is just beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so finish working your scallops all the way around. When you get back to the beginning, you're going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 that you started the round with, fasten off, and our blanket will be done. So I will meet back up with you after you have finished this last round, this round of scallops, joined with a slip stitch to the beginning of the round, fastened off, weaved in your ends. We'll come back and we'll take a look at what we've got. All right, I'll see you then. Here we are. Our border is done and complete. And so is our blanket. And again, it is too big to show you in its entirety, but oh my gosh, it is so beautiful. Again, I've posted pictures at the beginning of this video if you want to go back and see it in its, full form all at one glance. And I will say this is a little bit bigger than a normal size baby blanket. And so since this is the first time I had made this blanket, I didn't know. I guess in the future, I do hope to actually design and create the projects before I present them to you, but we are still learning as we go with our whole movie night. But if you wanted this to be more of a baby blanket size, I would only do 3 panels, and that's 9 strips. And maybe instead of 9 blocks across, you would do maybe 7. And of course, each block is done in a multiple of 15, so your blanket would be a multiple of 15 plus 6. If you wanted to make it, a little bit shorter in the width. And then, of course, in the length, you would just maybe do 3 panels. But, oh my gosh, I am so in love with this. I love the color change up on the border. I hope that you have enjoyed this project as much as I have. This is our final episode of the Born in Love Baby Blanket. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to our next project together. And until then, be joyful, stay crafty in your own way, make your own joyful creations, and I'll see you on the next movie project. Bye, everyone.